And now to our final word on the discussion on LGBTQI plus community and the opening up of the Kenyan society. This conclusion has been long, but it had to be long so that it can belong to the people of the Kenyan society. Now, this month we are celebrating the Women Month, the month of March. And in my church, on 25th of March, we are going to celebrate the beginning of the universe or the creation of the world. And of course, this is also the beginning of the new hope of salvation through Virgin Mary. And because we'll be celebrating the Holy Annunciation of Virgin Mary or of Theotokos. Now, we need to approach this conversation really soberly because it is a Women's Month. This is the subgroup that I would like to really vouch for it to be well mainstreamed. A lot of women suffer. I also find myself putting my wife into positions that are really precarious simply because I live in society where men have privileges. Like we talked about white privilege, society has really set a lot of privileges for boy child. But of course, also the white man's culture has also brought about the suffering of a boy child today because of the overemphasis on girl child education. So the boy child has been left behind. And so striking a balance is not easy, but we are going to try anyway. Now, um, these are in Kenya, the census of 2019, this topic has never been accepted, but the census has confirmed to us that there are more than 1,500 intersex. The nation media also played a video of a guy who was convicted by Judge Lenaola, and he was socialized as a man or a male. And so, while he was a female, in appearance he's a man, but he was a female in as far as his private membrane was concerned. And so, when he was sentenced to 20 years because of stealing a chicken, this guy was raped. And it was not until after 5 years that this was discovered, and the man was simply told sorry by the state. Just like the Australian government, after doing whatever they did to the Aboriginal children in the 1970s, the Prime Minister in 2008 just said sorry. So this sorry thing is not a good thing. And this guy who was convicted here in Kenya was supposed to be compensated a fee of 5,000, which has not been paid to this guy even after the last since after the melee was aired. The guy has never been compensated, and it is like 3 or 4 years ago. Anyway, we are talking about the LGBTQI plus community and how it is coming in Kenya. It has always been in Kenya. Has it been in the African culture? The idea of sodomy has been in the African culture and other culture as a form of punishment, as a form of initiation, and so on and so forth. Like in my culture, we call it kumenda. So it means that a stronger male comes and really um, I'm lacking words. So a strong male can come and probably punish you for being a weak link. Or if you want to prove that you are a strong male, you were raped, and probably you are younger than the other guys, and so on and so forth. Other forms of it, like sodomy, that used to happen in schools and among young boys while they were herding, going for hunting, and so on and so forth. It was just another case of raping. And so it cannot be likened to the LGBTQI plus community, and it as a movement, because this was not a community, it was an individual thing happening among peers, and it was a bad thing because it was never condoned. And that's why probably the African community is finding it hard to accept this kind of community as part of the dominant culture. But the white culture has pushed it through soft power. You'll find in our smartphones, we have emojis with the rainbow colors. Like I said, they took the rainbow colors in 1970, March of San Francisco. And of course, you'll find that there are very many images with the rainbow colors. They have clothes. We have charts like behind me, the children charts. And we know the rainbow colors as for a long time being associated with the children's stuff. And so that brings a lot of confusion. And of course, children accessories like school accessories, for example, rubber. We have rubbers with rainbow colors, and of course, we have the entertainment colors in our music, in our movies, in the stadium, like the EPL. If you watch the EPL, you'll find rainbow colors flashing through the advertising boards. And of course, we have umbrellas with rainbow colors, wristbands. We have this thing is always in the news. We have songs about the LGBTQI plus. You'll find these colors in the casinos, hotels, the production houses, and of course, where essential products are being produced for everyday needs. Including foodstuffs, including luxury products. You'll find all this conversation happening in schools, and schools are used through curriculum and publishing of books. We have churches through their leaders. And all these are the ones that I called colonial subgroups, which includes even the universities, hospitals, clinics, clubs, and businesses, legal fraternity. Okay, we also have the legal institutions, political institutions. We have media and other subgroup institutions or organizations. And I call them sub because the African culture is the dominant culture. So these are the ones came through foreign missions like colonialism and colonial governments and missionaries. So they are still subgroups because they have not been able to have a uniform cultural pattern. If you go to Christianity, they have different cultural patterns. If you go to Islam, they have different cultural patterns. They may share on the main, but the, the African culture is African culture wherever you go. All right. And so it is called subversive examples. For example, for the last 5 years, the marriage between John Mairepi, who is an Anglican priest from South Africa, marrying a Kenyan pastor, Paul Mwaura. This really brought a lot of agitation in the Kenyan society, and Mwaura was banned in his village of Murang'a. And of course, there are other many programs, like for example, I want to apologize. I mentioned about GOTI. GOTI is not a program by UN that promotes sexuality education among children. It is called SOGI. Okay, SOGI is the program by UN. You'll find these colors also among the SDG 17 goals. It has different colors. Of course, probably what else could they have used? But it can be used as a gay vague advertisement. And of course, we have in every human right demonstrations around the world, political demonstrations, you'll find LGBTQI plus flags being waved around in such, especially in the Americas and in Europe. And of course, these rainbow colors really we need to have a conversation around them. And of course, I would like to see if they will be registered in Kenya, the kind of corporate colors they are going to adopt. And so the idea of these white supremacist, imperialist culture and cultural invasion by the white man really has formed a lot of grievances since, let me say, the 13th century, when they took slave trade from the Arabs. And of course, it has continued to have a lot of oppression and suppression of members of indigenous cultures. And of course, through the colonial subgroups, they have continued with the agenda that was begun by Alexander of Macedonia, whom they call the Great. And of course, you will find this idea of greatness. That's why I mentioned competition as part of the cultural pattern or cultural value and meaning. And of course, these systemic and of course structural issues of their subgroups will still continue to be a problem to every culture. And of course, they are not ready to to correct them, because like I said before, they are fond of disrupting. So they disrupt and hoping that in future there's a generation that will come to mend, but they will mend once they see either there is an equilibrium, or they have taken over. Because this is what we can read from the history, and this is what we can see. They invade, they migrate, and they take over. And this is when they start correcting. For example, even the Greeks are good in correcting. They banish you and they take your position, and they say that they are correcting. So a lot of these ideas really need to be looked from a sober perspective, with a sober mind. And of course, we really need to shy away from individualism and go back to the basics, go back to the roots, and look at how our African societies used to work. It has survived and thrived this far with the little cultural ideas that we have, meanings and values and practices that we can remember. We can still go back and realize that it is not an individual but a society as one, that we are able to live without poverty, without problem, without stealing, without having jails, without having written rules. And all these are going to be irrelevant. Modernity will be relevant, money will be relevant, but this will take a great society to realize that they can do without all these fallacies of commercial life, which has destroyed our environment to a point of destroying ourselves through global warming and other bad ideas that have invaded our societies in recent past and through a recent history. And like I said, the history of the imperialist is very short and very small. We don't have to lose our own history because of we were told we are inferior and we bought the fallacy. We need to rise up. Africa rise. All other First Nations rise. Every community rise. And remember that it is not about money, but technology will help us be whom we are and where we are. God bless you. See you soon. Let us continue liking, commenting, disliking, and also suggesting to other people so that we can have a meaningful conversation. Cheers.